G'day, it's Simon at South OC Cars and Coffee. We're not doing Car of the Week this week, we're actually doing Motorcycle of the Week, and I have Phil with me, who's actually won Car of the Week once before, as a matter of fact, but today he has a very special motorcycle. What is it, mate?
It's a 1942 Harley-Davidson XA. Stood for Experimental Army.
It really is experimental, it is incredibly interesting. Check this thing out. Phil, this is like no other Harley I've ever seen. When I heard the year of this, I imagined it was going to be like a friend of mine's father used to have a Harley, and you know, tank shifter and all those sort of things. It's typical early Harley layout. This is very different. Let's talk about the thing that makes this very different from a traditional Harley of this era.
Well, it has an opposed twin engine. It was a copy of a BMW, and it has a drive shaft.
Yeah, so that immediately, so cylinder over this side, cylinder on the opposing side, not up here like you'd normally get on a Harley Davidson. Then we come around this side, because the engine is actually rotating in this direction, not in this direction, we go from a drive shaft into that rear drive.
Differential, right.
So very, very interesting. So why did Harley develop this bike?
1942, the Army gave Harley a contract and Indian a contract for 1,000 bikes each. Their intent was to send these up to North Africa during the war. None of them ever made it out of the States. The Jeep came along and they decided they'd prefer the Jeep. But it had a drive shaft because the chain wouldn't stand up to the sand. The opposed twin engine because it ran 100 degrees cooler than the V-twin.
Yeah, because what we're looking at is if you took a normal V-twin, whether you had a cylinder up here and a cylinder up here, not only was the front cylinder in an air-cooled motor blocking the back cylinder, making the back cylinder run hotter, you also had the front wheel blocking airflow in that direction, whereas the way that BMW has done it with these opposed pistons, it actually gives you airflow all the way through. The only downside, of course, is that your leg is sitting, well, there's a heat shield here to keep the heat off your leg, but it's still, it's going to run a lot cooler. The other interesting thing about motors that run in this way as well is they naturally have an inclination to stand themselves up more, because it's almost like a gyroscopic effect. You've got effectively a flywheel or crankshaft running in this direction, which gives you that sort of flywheel effect as well. So not as easy as to lean into corners, but it also makes them more upright. And
that's a very smooth engine.
Yeah, like the BMWs were, exactly.
Because they canceled each other out. This is a copy of the R71 BMW from the late 30s.
I mean, a lot of it is things that are really, really interesting. I asked you, because of course a lot of the Harleys here had a tank shifter. There's a shifter here, but it wasn't used to shift all the gears, correct?
To get it into neutral, because it was difficult to get into neutral on the gear, on the foot shift.
And I asked you about where the shifter was, and it's actually it's around over here. And then I asked you where the Kickstarter was. Now, normally you'd see a Kickstarter on the other side. Look at this here, because of course, again, because the engine is turning in this direction, the Kickstarter's got to go this way, not this way as it normally would, typically on the other side. So a really interesting old motorcycle. So they were contracted, did you say, to build 1,000?
1,000.
And how many of those did they end up building? Did they build all 1,000?
1,000.
And how many are still available, do you know, or running?
Good question. I've had many different numbers thrown my way. It's hard to say, but most of them, or a lot of them, were civilianized. They were sold during the war, and most buyers civilianized them.
Yeah, right.
So to find one that's military spec is pretty rare.
There's so many little details. Like I looked through there on the drive shaft. It's like a normal prop shaft. There is a universal joint back in there, which is super cool as well.
And one up right outside of the transmission.
So because of course, you know, although it's interesting because it is a hardtail. There is no suspension on it.
No, there is suspension.
There is. Oh, there is too.
Suspension.
There it is too. There's the shock absorber.
This was their Harley's first suspended bike.
Interesting. Oh, that's really cool. What a great story. What a great motorcycle. More information here. I'm just going to put the camera on that for a couple of seconds, so if somebody wants to do a freeze on that, they can read more about it. But what a great, interesting bike. So Phil, How did you come by this motorcycle? How long have you owned it?
I got it back in 1974. I had done some work for a friend who had this bike.
Right.
He had a Kawasaki Mach 3 that he used as a daily rider and had me tune it up and do some other things to it. And the bill came out a little higher than he expected, and so we ended up trading. He took me over to show this to me at his brother's house. His brother had these two large 3-car garages in the back. Walked in one, and there was this motorcycle, but next to it was a 55 and a 56, 53 and a 55 Corvette.
Right.
And then the garage next to it was a 56, a 59, and I think a 61 Corvette. And so he wanted me to look at the bike. I wanted to look at Corvettes.
Understandably.
So I was 19 at the time. I didn't have the money, the time. I was going to school or space to work on it. So I dismantled it. I put it in an old Bultaco crate and took it with me everywhere I lived subsequent to that. And 2.5 years ago, pulled it out of the crate and started the restoration.
As our Motorcycle of the Week winner, you get this Meguiar's complete kit, which includes the hot shine foam, quick interior detailer. Well, there's no interior, there's just those seats, perfect clarity glass cleaner, the ultimate wash and wax, hybrid ceramic detailer, and the microfiber towel. Keep this wonderful 1942 Harley Davidson XA in the pristine condition that it's in. Thank you so much for bringing it out and sharing it with us.
Thank you.